Hi everyone, I'm Naf Lello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Manamari. As many of us have been following in the news, the political climate in Ethiopia is growing more turbulent by the day. Since esteemed Oromo singer Hachalu Hundesa's assassination on June 29th, Al Jazeera and Reuters reported on August 13th that over 9,000 people have been arrested, according to the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission. We don't know what that number is today. Thousands have also been killed by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's security forces, detained, tortured, and exposed to COVID-19 in makeshift jails, underground cellars, and the notorious prison chambers that the Prime Minister allegedly closed during his initial reforms upon taking office. What was supposed to be a transitional government has claimed that they will postpone elections in Ethiopia indefinitely, jeopardizing any semblance of democracy in the country. In addition to civilians, protesters, dissidents, journalists, and political opposition leaders, 3 Oromo US citizens were also arrested on trumped-up charges. 2 have since been released. Misha Chiri is an American citizen and IT professional from Minnesota who went back home in 2018 following Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's call to diaspora professionals to return to Ethiopia and invest in the country. He was arrested in the middle of the night on July 10th, 2020 without an arrest warrant and remains in detention today. I'm here today with his brother Kitesso to talk a little more about his case. Thank you for being here, Kitesso.
Thank you, Anaf and Manamari team for having me.
I'd like to start by asking if you could tell us a bit about Misha's arrest and what has followed in court over the last 2 months.
Sure. So on July 10th, I think it was at Ethiopian local time around 11 p.m.-ish. Security force came. They came looking for him, and obviously, because he was the only person they got from that house, searched the house, took his belongings, and then nobody knew where he was for at least for a week. We had no idea. I know halfway through the that week, American embassy might have known, but they were not able to disclose to us due to privacy reason. But we know he was taken to Bishoftu military camp. We know that at some point during that week, he was brought back to Finfinne, where he's currently detained, which is the makeshift prison that was called some school, elementary school, Addis Ababa #1 elementary school around Angular Fabrica. The first time we heard that he's there was probably a week, 8 days after his arrest. The embassy called us to confirm that they were able to communicate with him and meet him face to face. And basically that whole week, we had no idea if he was alive, dead, or anywhere else.
It goes without saying that this is an extremely stressful situation. I wanted to ask how this has all been for your family and friends.
It's been rough. It's been hard. Mom and dad, they both live here in Minneapolis, and especially it's harder on my mom. I've noted before Mishas the last kid in the house. So the way my parents view him, still it's a little kid, not as an adult. So it's been strongly hard, rough time on my mom, but everybody else is just going through the emotional roller coaster as the process goes through the system with no end in sights and with nothing predictable happening. So yeah, it's been tough.
Speaking of the system, the process of the Ethiopian court proceedings, can you tell us about that and if there's been any progress on his case or whatever you can say?
Yeah. So if you want to quantify it, there's no progress. But as far as the process that we've gone through so far, there's been continuous investigation after investigation. By law in Ethiopia, if someone is in detention, they have to appear in court within 2 weeks. And then if for whatever reason the judge believes and provided that they're independent, give an investigation or an investigating authority additional time, it wouldn't be more than 2 weeks. So at the maximum, every 2 weeks you have to appear in courts for a hearing. So he's been going through that at times, and then at some point he was granted a bail. And that was toward right before when the prosecution the police in this case signaled that they've wrapped up their investigation. He was granted a bail only next day for the government to appeal, and they've gone through another appointment after appointment, and finally when they were to make a final decision, that's when they signaled that they've wrapped up their investigation and they're charging him with the telecom fraud. But once he's gone through that, you get another chance to request for a bail. That was also granted last Thursday, finally, after postponement of a few appointments, and which was, the bail was paid. And then next day, which was Friday, when family went to get the paperwork signed and get him out, they were told that, the government was appealing, which means that they had to go to court that day in the morning. And after an argument, they were told the decision would be made in the afternoon. They went back that afternoon only to find out that that was postponed for Monday, which is tomorrow. So tomorrow would be, if of course, as predictable as this court had been, every appointment follows a postponement of an appointment to a later date. That if everything goes as planned, tomorrow would be a decision whether he will be granted a bail or they would have a sufficient reason to keep him in custody.
Just to clarify, if he were granted bail tomorrow, that would be the third time, and his previous 2 times, the bail was not only granted, but was paid in process. Is that correct?
Sure. So tomorrow technically would be the third, but it's an extension of the second bail. Basically, they appealed, and when they appeal it, it goes to a different court. And this is where, even though the last 2 bail hearing took the same thing, which is appointment after appointment, and a decision was made. So yeah, this would be technically a third decision that would be made on his bail tomorrow.
Got it. I wanted to also ask about the role of the U.S. senators. Minnesota Senators Amy Klobuchar and Tina Smith recently released a statement explicitly calling for Misha and for opposition leader Jawar Mohammad's release after thousands of people tweeted, called, and wrote to their offices. Has there been any progress since, and what has been the impact of that statement, if any?
No. I know they've, from day one when Misha was arrested, I was in communication with both Senator's office and also with Representative Elhana Omer's office. They've been helpful at times, but also they're limited. So they've been reaching out to state departments, they were reaching out to the embassies, and we got the embassy to actually attend the last 2 of the last 3 hearings of Misha's court appearance. The embassy representative was there just to observe. They can't provide you anything else, but they will observe with their lawyers and make sure that the process is fair or transparent and according to the law. But other than that, they have not put enough pressure because one of the biggest things is he was finally charged, but normally when you get charged, the lawyers will have access to the charge sheet. I doubt if they have that, and he can't even prepare to defend himself with whatever telecom fraud that has been charged. So yes, in a way that they're involved. I provide them with weekly, daily, as needed updates. to the three offices. And when I have a request for them to push or ask or kind of respond, they would uh, actually follow up with that. But the last couple of weeks, it's more of like, because it's a bail hearing, we don't know what the charges are, we don't know what the process are, and it's more of like a wait and see, and what happens tomorrow. And that's what happens tomorrow has been happening the last 2 weeks, and let's wait Monday, let's wait Wednesday, let's wait Thursday. So at this point, yeah, other than providing them updates, we have not seen any immediate impact from what they did.
Okay. You mentioned the U.S. Embassy in Addis accompanying him or attending some of his court proceedings. Have they been playing other roles in ensuring that his treatment is fair and that he's getting all of the rights that he should be granted in detention?
Well, they're limited in terms of their effort. They're limited to whatever the government responds to. There are a few times when we have extreme concern, we did reach out to the embassy, and the embassy did reach out to the government to inquire or ask a question and get a response for us. So in that sense, it's been extremely helpful. We know he's healthy. We know he's okay. We know he's relatively, compared to most people who are incarcerated in that country, has been treated well. But at the same time, what's unfair is that he's neither he was in charge, and basically as justice delayed is justice denied. So it's been over 2 months now with with no end in sight. So the embassy does reach out to the government, and also they're limited on what the government allows or response, and their other tool they have is to report back to the U.S. government, and then pressure the U.S. government to take the next step, which is what the senators are going to discuss moving forward. Is what next action that they can take that would have impact on this.
Got it. I saw reports that some of the facilities where some of these prisoners are being detained have had outbreaks of COVID-19. Do we know for a fact that that's the case in any of the places where he has been detained since July 10th?
Yes, there are COVID cases in the place that he was detained. We know of there are a few people who came down with COVID, were hospitalized. We did inquire about this. The embassy did also reach out to the government. They pressured the government to respond. But the response we got was that, yes, there are some COVID cases, but by a definition of WHO, it did not meet the COVID outbreak labeling. So that was the response. But we were told that they get tested. We were told that get tested sometimes daily or every other day. They get provided with a mask. They try to limit access in and out to the facility, but this is also something that we're getting a response, nothing that we know of firsthand.
Have you had any family members who have been able to visit or reach him? And has there been any interference from either prison guards, security forces, or anyone in hindering your family from speaking with him?
No. Family members, one person or another, been visiting him almost every day. Friends will go see him. The prison guards are nicer. They're not the typical police or investigating body of the government. These are just employees 8 to 5 or overnight employees. So they're average guys. They're civilians, so they're more nicer than if you were to face a police officer or the government official who would may or may not do something. So in terms of that, they're nicer guys, the prison guards that are out there. But at the same time, you're limited to like speak to them 5 minutes. You can bring in food. You can, take stuff out. So there's so much limitation. Um, Food is limited. The government was supposed to provide them with meals since they don't allow meal from outside, but the government's budget also limited. So that basically means that they don't get enough to eat. But one option they had, and there was a cafeteria in the facility where they can purchase their meals. So family member has been going there and giving him money to make the purchases, but that also you're limited to give him, X amount of birr a day. You can't give him, enough for a week or anything. So it's a big challenge, but it's all right now.
All right. Besides social media campaign under the hashtag Misha Chiri, how else can we advocate for Misha, raise awareness about the case, or try to help expedite his release?
I think social media campaigns, it's a number one. Once information out there, there's a mass that can take that and try to create an awareness and a movement. And the other is extremely important at reaching out to representatives. There's so much we can do as a family because, we're speaking on behalf of Misha. So we're one family talking to government officials, and, they have a lot more interest than just one person. So reaching out to representatives, reaching out to agencies that can make impact, the government agencies, whether it's the State Department or the U.S. Diplomatic community, it does help. By the end of the day, it's the Ethiopian government that makes the decision. But what we could do is make sure that the case is well and alive, and everybody is aware, and we put enough pressure, transparency, because when these charges come, and we know, we're well prepared to defend whatever they put out there, since we know that it's not true, and we have our, but the only problems right now is that you can't defend against something that you have not seen and only heard. And the only thing we heard is he's going to be charged with the telecom fraud and for importing some devices that are not approved or the government is not aware. And we're just waiting for them to make those kind of information available so that the lawyers can prepare their defenses.
I see. I guess my last question would just be, what's next?
So the biggest challenge is the unpredictable nature of the Ethiopian court system. So we don't know what we head into tomorrow. Tomorrow it could be, it could go into 3 different ways. It could be bail granted, or it could be bail revoked, or it could be the court is closed. So any of those possibilities are on the table tomorrow. And I've seen a report today that, some of the federal courthouses will be closed for their annual judges or court employees vacation or something along those lines. So that means that there will be courts that are closed. So he might as well be out tomorrow, or he might as well not, or they may even not be court hearing. It's possible this whole thing of postponement is just dragging into this a month of September, where courts don't operate fully. So we don't know, to be honest. We're just taking it day at a time. We'll see what happens tomorrow, and then we try to figure out a way forward from there.
Hopefully tomorrow brings us the news that we're looking for. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Kitesso. For anyone who's watching, if you're interested in learning more about Misha's case, you can check out the information that's going to be linked in the caption below, or the hashtag Misha Chiri, MISHACHIRI. We'll also link some information on how you can contact senators and representatives. So this concludes this episode of Manamari. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Naf.
Thank you.